Hello, my noble band of outlaws. Outlaw Samurai coming at you live with a video on the Outlaw Samurai Show. Oh, I know I made a little post saying that the show might be a little late, but that was because of earlier time management things. So, first, if you're wondering which katana this is the Scorn katana from Soko Chikara. It's a T10 blade. And I finally have a camera where I can show the Hamon pattern that goes all the way to the Kisaki. How in the hell does this keep getting scratches in it? Now, I'm gonna just wait and see all who tunes in on this lovely 8:30 promptly time.
So here's the thing. The clinic's been really busy, and I've been having trouble finding a good assistant.
Right. What does that have to do with me?
Well, look, you did a good job here. And I just don't really have the time to train someone else.
I don't really understand.
You want your old job back?
Really? You're okay with this?
Actually, it was Ty's idea.
Yeah, of course.
But all is not forgotten. You will be put on probation.
I understand.
Can you start now?
Yeah, sure.
Great. We're going to Spruce Meadows. Prep on what needs to be done. Yep.
All right. So let's see here.
Okay, so there's a shipment of vaccines that just came in that needs to be.
Thank you.
Don't thank me, I did it for Scott. He needs the help. So let's just
Okay, there's definitely a lag between what I see on my phone and what I do in real life. So, for any of you who tune in at a later date, and my grandmother apparently has my live stream going on in the background.
I'm not going to California.
And if she could turn the volume down so I can't hear it. Oh, we got 3 people tuning in. So, who are you, third person? So, what I thought I would do is a little something different than what I normally do with these live streams and talk about bows. More specifically, the recurve or the modern center cut recurve versus the old style Chinese, or in this case, Turkish composite recurve bow. I will start with the pros and the cons of each bow. The pros of the recurve bow are as such. With modern recurve bows, better materials than their primitive, older counterparts. You notice the modern recurve has a shelf to shoot the arrow off of. This is what's known as a center cut bow because it is cut to the center, meaning these, well, actually, this is cut a little past center. Meaning that the window of the bow goes a little beyond the string. What this does is it allows, one, for me to drop the arrow. What this allows is what eliminates a phenomenon known as the archer's paradox. And that is when you shoot a bow like this, or more accurately like this, the arrow has to loop around the bow before it flies off and hits its target. Whereas in this case, what?
My name.
Whatever. With the center cut bow, on the other hand, the archer's paradox is all but eliminated. Simply because at full draw, when released, the arrow can fly straight off the shelf of the bow and does not have to travel around the bow when fired. That is an advantage of the modern recurve, is that the modern recurve eliminates or mitigates the archer's paradox to an extent. However, with the old style of bow, this Turkish, I swore I was looking for a Hungarian bow when buying this. But with this bow, as we can see, there is no shelf for the arrow to sit on. The shelf is your own hand. So when at full draw, when the arrow is released, it will fly off the bow, gliding across your hands. Now, depending on your fletchings, these may, in actuality, cut your hand as you are releasing the arrow. That's why when you see a lot of archers that shoot bows like this, or even English longbows, they'll have a leather partial glove that goes over their index finger joint and the back of the hand to protect from the fletchings. Next, the other thing about these old style bows is, again, what I mentioned before, the archer's paradox. When you fire a bow like this, the bow is in the way of your aiming. So you have to kind of cant the bow like this in order to get a good shot at your target. And when the arrow flies off of the bow, it will when arrows are shot, they zigzag flex through the air, and they have to go around the riser of the bow in order to be fired. Because of this, the archer's paradox came about because the arrow has to sit somewhere in order to shoot, but then again, anywhere you lay an arrow, it will affect its accuracy, as far as I'm aware. I'm not 100% certain on the archer's paradox, but I know because the arrow is obstructed by the way it sits on the bow, with these style of bows that it affects accuracy and arrow flight. Now, the archer's paradox can be somewhat mitigated through intensive training. I would argue, however, that if you're going to just go to your local bow shop, pick up a bow, and start shooting, but you don't want to go with a compound, if you want to go any form of traditional route, your best bet is to go with the center cut recurve, because of the simple fact that these bows are specifically designed to kind of eliminate or mitigate the archer's paradox. A modern compound bow completely eliminates the archer's paradox because of the way it's set up with its arrow rests and the precise measurements and everything else that go into it. And this does eliminate the archer's paradox to an extent because it allows the arrow to travel straight off the bow. Whereas with this, it has to basically hook around the bow before it can fly straight. Just one moment.
She's gonna be fine.
My name is in three.
I better go. Okay.
Sorry about this. My grandmother and technology. I'm going to destroy all of her technology one day. It's going to happen. I'll send her back to the Stone Age. But in any case, who was I? Oh yeah. The Archer's paradox is extremely present on bows like this, where the arrow has to fly and hook around in order to be shot. And if you're going to go to these traditional archery routes, I would not choose a horse bow like this as your first bow simply because of the archer's paradox. And I know I'm speaking a lot about it. I know what the archer's paradox is to an extent. I just can't explain it well. There are plenty of YouTubers, archery-based YouTubers online that can explain it far greater than I can. I just know that these recurves are designed to eliminate the archer's paradox to an extent, not to the extent of a compound bow, but to great extent. Before anyone asks, I think this is actually wood and fiberglass laminated. And this is just solid fiberglass with wood tip.
So tell me, how many bodies you got hidden up here?
All right. Now, there's another thing about these bows, and that both of them require feathered arrows. That means arrows with these feather-like fletchings. Modern recurves do, however, sometimes come with the fitting required to mount arrow rests onto them, and can then fire these composite fletchings. The difference is these composite fletchings do not bend as nearly as much as required as these feather fletchings do when fired directly off of a shelf. Now that I've explained the pros and cons, time for the next part of why I brought these bows out. The simplistic answer is because which one of these bows would suit you better in a zombie apocalypse? And I know I did the zombie apocalypse thing before, but that was just generic off the top of my head. I've had time to think since then. And we're going to start, and I'm going to do a few part thing here, starting with the bows, going into the swords, and if anyone eventually does join me, I will either repeat myself or we will start a new topic. So, put these arrows to the side. Which of these bows would I take in a zombie apocalypse? The recurve or the horse bow? And hey, Tempest, glad you could make it. Yep, we're doing a bow thing this time. I was just getting to the point where I was talking about which bow I would use for the zombie apocalypse. Modern recurve or horse bow? I spent the last, 16 minutes explaining the differences, but I'll do a brief one by. This one does not require as much training to get good at because of the way the window is cut. It removes what is known as the archer's paradox to some extent, not as much as a modern compound does, but to some extent because the arrow can fly straight off the shelf. This one, the archer's paradox is completely present, and the arrow, when fired, has to hook around the bow in order to get on target. Yeah. Which of these would I take into the zombie apocalypse? It does come down to a matter of personal preference, honestly. But if I had to pick, it would be this one. Now, I know you're probably wondering, why would I pick the horse bow over the recurve? Well, the horse bow has an added benefit that the recurve does not. If I can avoid dropping the arrow, the horse bow, stay put, you bloody fucking. The horse bow's benefit is that it actually does not have a shelf. It is an ambidextrous bow, meaning that if I ever had to, I can just switch over to my right hand and fire. I have a compound bow and it's great fun. Hey, Kingfisher, glad you could make it, my friend. But yeah, because of the ability that I can use and switch in between my left and right hand, if I ever had to shoot this thing, is one of the advantages of having a horse bow in the zombie apocalypse, the ambidextrous shooting ability. Not to mention that with a recurve, I can only shoot one side of the bow. Howdy, Outlaw. Thanks, Kingfisher. With the recurve, I'm stuck only being able to shoot left-handed. But I can shoot either side of this bow if I had to. Another thing is that if something happened to my hand, say I got injured or something happened, well, I couldn't use the 3-finger drawing method, but there's still access, but I still have access to thumb drawing method. I can do that. Now, honestly, thumb draw is actually best used when the arrow is resting on your thumb. Because with thumb draw, you are pinching the string. It's when you draw back with your thumb and you release. With thumb draw, with the ability to thumb draw on top of the standard Mediterranean draw, the horsebow just offers far more advantages in a survival situation than a recurve. Also, if I had to, for whatever reason, say there was somebody with me, a partner, family member, whatever, and they also were competent in shooting a bow, I could then give them this bow and a quiver of arrows. And if they're left-handed, then
Why can't you work here? Jack's still looking for a new place to reach you.
if they're left-handed, they can shoot it left-handed.
It's just that
Same vice versa. If they're right-handed, they can switch back over to right-handed. Or if they're ambidextrous and it doesn't really matter,
me too.
then win-win. Now, as I said before, there is the archer's paradox, where the arrow has to fly, and as it clears the bow, the arrow will actually kick away from the bow and then auto-correct itself through flight. That is, in a nutshell, the archer's paradox, which is present when firing one of these bows. Now, as I said before, the recurve eliminates this, but not fully. Hence why in a survival situation where I had to, I would rather have one of these. And honestly, if I really had to do it, I could probably even get away with firing these composite fletchings off of this bow far easier than if I was to fire it off the recurve. Simply because this bow has no shelf. If I was wearing a leather glove to protect my hand from the fletchings, I may very well be able to fire these carbon fiber arrows with their composite fletch off this bow far easier. So I have a much wider range of arrows that I can take advantage of using than with the standard recurve. Now, there is one thing that could allow the recurve to do this, and that is if I had a modern arrow rest. Even something like a whisker biscuit or drop away. I'm nearly ambidextrous with swords, but offhand my bow sounds weird. Would be losing all of my arrows at the range. And that's a very good point. Same. You make valid points. Using a sword ambidextrous is far easier than using a bow ambidextrous. But I'm saying that if they could, or if you could, that is another advantage. But if I had a flipper rest, which is just a little piece of plastic you would stick into the hole where the regular arrow rest would go. If I had one of those, minus the swords. But if I had a flipper rest on this, then I would easily be able to fire the composite fletchings, because the arrow would be off of the shelf, and there would be far less materials in the way for the fletchings to get caught on. So that is why, if I was in a zombie apocalypse, hypothetically, I would take, well, not hypothetically, I would take the horse bow or longbow or any bow that doesn't have a shelf that could be fired from either side without having to switch out risers or anything else. I feel I've got room to grow yet. So it has to do with all the dual wielding experience. I was going to say, Tempest, you're like Leonardo from TMNT, but with long swords. All right, just put on a blue bandana. Just put on a blue do rag and have a pizza box in the background, and you could cosplay as one of the and you could cosplay as Leonardo. But there is the bow discussion. And as I said earlier in the live stream, I'm going to go into depth of what weapons I would take, no problem, Tempest, into a zombie apocalypse. The second weapon, of course, is a mid-sized melee weapon, predominantly a sword. So you may be wondering, which of the many swords in my collection would I be grabbing to fight the zombie hordes first? I'll give you a moment to think about the answer. The warrior, of course. I mean, just look at this thing. Even when it goes dull, even if the blade was to dull on me, I would still have basically a sword-sized axe that can cleave into the zombie skulls. So, what more would I need, honestly? Well, Kingfish. Thrust, it depends on the type of zombie you're dealing with. If it's like a zombie from a D&D game, then I don't really know. If it's the stereotypical, like, I thought it was only decapitation. Well, it all depends, again, on the quote-unquote zombie you're dealing with. If it is the magical zombie, then most of the time you have to kill the spellcaster. If it's the nuclear radiated revived corpse zombie, then yeah, headshot or destroy the brain matter. It all is destroy the brain matter with the nuclear, like, Holocaust zombies. But if it's like from the movie I Am Legend, where they're vampire-like creatures, not really zombies, but vampiric-like creatures that can go into the sun, or like in Stake Land, then I do believe a heart shot would kill them, the same as a human. The stereotypical undead zombie can only really be killed through destroying the brain matter. But zombies, like, in the sense that they lose their intelligence, but they are still living creatures, yes, their organs would be a viable attacking target, like from the movie I Am Legend or the Stake Land movies or things of that nature. But no, if zombies in the traditional sense can only be killed by destroying their brains. decapitation will stop a zombie. Like everything from the neck down will basically stop functioning, but its head will still function. So even if I was to decapitate a zombie, its head would still be able to bite me. I'd have to destroy its brain matter. But decapitation is a good way to basically kill a zombie without a lot of excess effort. Because a zombie is not going to generally try to dodge or block a sword swing. And as long as you can sever, you don't even need to completely cut off their head. As long as you can sever the spinal cord, then that would count as a quote-unquote decapitation and stop them. But for a little, this is the only T10 sword I have. Oh, what the hell? You were doing fine in the testing. This was doing. There we go. Show you the Hammond. And it goes all the way into the Kisaki, this Hammond does. But yeah. This is the Sokochikara Scorn Katana. It's my only T10 blade. But I think I can turn that on without having to worry. Honestly speaking, T10 makes for a very nice Hammond. Can't see it though. It was working good in the when I was testing it before in this lighting. Can you see it now, Kingfisher?
I'll have to take all the credit. What are you talking about? You're already making me look bad with all this free babysitting, and now you're trying to outgive me.
What's up, everyone? Hey, Gargoyle. You missed the conversation we had on bows. And why, if I was going in a zombie apocalypse, I'd pick this horse bow. Simply because I can shoot it from either side and I can give it to another party member in a sense. And if they can basically shoot it from either side anyways. And I can fire a lot larger variety of arrows off of it. And this is my only T10 sword, Gargoyle. Oh, Alex. Party member. It's like we're on a D&D quest.
I told you not to do that.
And I told you, you can't tell me what to do.
Stop doing stupid stuff.
You don't even care.
There you go, Gargoyle.
No, you don't. 2 words. Mini don't.
I'm sorry. Look, I had a problem with my bike, okay? I ran out of gas, but look, I'll make it up to you, okay?
Don't even bother. If you can't wait to get back to Fort Mac, why don't you just go?
Well, like I said, it's like a D&D party. But no, as I mentioned earlier, the Warrior O Katana would be my first choice. But I do have a few backup choices. This being one of them. my Viking sword.
No.
Simply because of the fact that it's a one-handed sword.
Well, it depends. You have to promise not to get on
I've always thought it strange they call it party member instead of fighter band. Like hey, everybody, let's get drunk. I
I found it online.
don't know either. I guess it's like a party is a group of people, so I guess that's where that definition comes from, Tempest. But yeah, because this is a one-handed sword, that means if I had to, I could slash with this. Mages just want to have fun. Nice one, Kingfisher. Mages just want to have fun. But in any case, the reason I would choose this one is because it's got some good weight to it, and I could slash while also holding something else in my hand. For example, use this as an example, like a hammer if I had to. I could slash, and then I could bash. The one-handed sword gives me the ability of wielding two weapons. Make sure I'm caught up on comments. Not to mention that this is of a smaller profile to the Warrior O Katana. As we can, where did it go? See here, this is a smaller profile sword than this, meaning that it hugs my body tighter, and I could even keep it flat against my back, like so, while wearing it, and then just kick it, and then just move it forward, draw, and I'm able to keep them at bay. What do you think, Tempest? Viking sword be good for a zombie apocalypse? The next sword that I would choose is an oldie, but a goodie. The Kriegsmesser. Now, I know what you're thinking. The last live stream I said this would be my sword of choice for a judicial duel if I had to fight somebody else. But this also does come with a few advantages of its own. Hell yeah, time to party Viking style. Nice. This does also come with advantages of its own when fighting unarmored opponents. The two chief ones being as such. The Quillons. Alright. If I had to, alright, I could perform a murder stroke with this far more reliably than I could with a long sword. Simply because the spine of the sword is blunt. And I can rest that Zonhao. Thank you, Tempest. I can perform the Zonhao. Mordhao. Zonhao is the murder stroke, right? And Mordhao is this, right? Juramori. Pink Hanway. But yeah. Mordhao is the murder stroke. Yeah. I could perform. That was a Krumpau. Thank you, Tempest. My German My German technical terms are not as well versed as my Japanese, but I could perform the murder stroke with this. And these quillons, because the force is basically centered right here, because of all the impact force that is concentrated at this point. If I was to strike the temple bone of a zombie, keeping in mind that the protective flesh and skin would more than likely be rotted away or in the process of rotting, and the temple bone is the thinnest bone in the human body, I could basically give the thing a lobotomy if I was to just murder stroke them as hard as I could in the side of their head like this. I could also bash their heads in with the pommel of the sword. I could flip the blade around like this and really ram it into their foreheads, knocking them off balance. There's also, I could more comfortably half sword with this because of the flat spine. Use sharpening katana with. Well, Juromori, I use a work sharp to sharpen all of my blades. The Ken Onion work sharp is what I use to sharpen all my blades. I'd get it out if it wasn't buried at the moment. But yeah, I could easily half sword with this. And if I had to be more finessey, as that's a technical term that I came up with from my manager, from my old manager. He'd always said I was a bull in a china shop and I lacked finesse. Why do I need finesse when I have raw power? But if I had to become finessey with it, I'd feel more comfortable half swording with something like this that I can push in with my thumb, lock my fingers in place, and even if I had to put the spine like this, have 3 points of contact and just ram. Wrath is your favorite steel. My favorite steel, I don't really have one, Jeroma. But if I had to say what my favorite steels are, there's two. The 1055 steel that is used to make cold steel sword blades, and the 5160 spring steel that my Dragon King Winter Sun katana is made out of. I'll just take my Buddhist prayer beads down for a minute. And again, the Noggle. Just hand protection all around. 5160 spring steel is also 1065. Huh, I did not know that. But there's just so many different techniques that I could use combining Japanese swordplay and European swordplay to fight off zombies with this sword than I could with the Warrior O katana and the Viking sword. Though in actuality, it's a bit of a misconception, really. Because I wouldn't do it with this sword because of how stupid sharp it is. And also 1065, they aren't the same, was a typo. Okay. T10 for edge retention and hallway, 9260 for general toughness. Or a laminated Sanmai construction of both, Kingfisher. Edge is T10, spine 5160, you basically get the benefits of a differentially hardened blade with the benefits of a mono hardened blade. And while you can do the murder stroke with a katana, it's just not a good idea, especially since the Suba does kind of concentrate force more, but it's just not conclusive because of how smaller it is. It's just not. The Cold Steel 1055 is tough stuff too. Tempest working on the pair of cutlass machetes. They need sharpening at least, which isn't easy on those, I bet. I don't know. I've never owned a cutlass machete. I've been wanting a Cold Steel machete, just haven't pulled the trigger. And while you can perform the murder stroke with a katana, it's just not feasible. Not as feasible as with a cross guard. And I wouldn't do it with this anyways because of how stupid sharp I made the blade from here going down. But I also could do the same like pommel bash with the Warrior O. Sorry, Outlaw. Backstory there is I'm going to send my pair of Cold Steel cutlass machetes to Tempest to have fun with. I like them, but never cut much except for some firewood. It's cool, It's cool, Kingfisher. Tempest. But in any case, yeah, I've been wanting one, but never really pulled the trigger. I like the looks of them. But yeah, I could perform the pommel bash with this. And I'm also fully capable of half sorting with this as well, in the same manner of which I would be half sorting with the Kriegsmesser. It's just, I feel like I have more purchase on the sword to do this half sorting. I can wrap my thumb around the quillums. If I had to, I could wrap my finger around the noggle. Really give me full control over where this tip goes and really ram it into any unsuspecting zombie I might have to. Plus, this does have a comfortable length blade for me. I do like the length of blade. It is a little thin for what I would consider to be a sword that you would take onto a battlefield. But considering the fact that it's going to be going up against zombies and such, I do have to end up either giving it to the Viking sword or the Warrior O katana just because of the thinness of this blade and how fragile seeming this edge is because of how thin this thing gets as it nears the tip. Now, if I could take the cross guard and if I could take the cross guard off of this and put it onto this, it would be the perfect combination for what I would view a zombie fighting blade to have. Also, I know that in Tempest, you'd be more of an authority on this than I would, but I just don't see the Italian longsword being good in a zombie apocalypse. This is, to me, it basically looks like they took a rapier blade and put a longsword hilt on it. You would know more about it than I would. That Kriegsmesser did awesome in the pool noodles last time. I think the distro taper is better than a katana. I don't remember cutting pool noodles with the Kriegsmesser. Stopping in to say hello to all my peeps. Hey, Joe, you missed the bow portion on why I would choose a horse bow in a zombie apocalypse over a recurve. And we were just explaining why, if the blade on my Kriegsmesser was a little thicker, why I would use this in the zombie apocalypse, even over the Warrior O katana. Which is weird, because the Warrior O is my favorite sword. But I have to think, which gives me more advantages without disadvantages? Yeah, it's a Type 19. It's more of a duelist sword than a survival blade. Thank you, Tempest. So, ergo, why I would not take the Italian longsword. That would more than likely be the last sword I would rely on, because of its blade. Yeah, which do you think, Joe? Kriegsmesser or Warrior O katana? Which would you pick to go up against the zombies? Keep in mind, you can only carry one sword on your person. And I don't think I've asked this before, but which one of all of you present, which sword from your collection would you entrust with your life the most in a zombie apocalypse, but also gives you the most advantages? With me, it's you cut pool noodles at the end and challenge Eric to do it. Oh, yeah. I did do that. I challenged Eric to like a fun little competition to see which one of us was the king of the noodle cutters. But my challenge is I'm not the kind of guy that's like, bro, whip it out. We're gonna get into this contest, bro. It's like, hey, you're cutting noodles. I cut pool noodles. Let's see who can do it faster or better or something like that. It's like the stupid challenges you do when you're a kid. Like, I dare you to poke that frog. I was like, no, I don't want to poke the frog. But I dare you to poke the frog. So by that logic, you have to poke the frog. But I don't want to poke the frog. Do it. It's like, okay, I'll do it. I try to put comedy in these. But yeah. I honestly would have to pick the Kriegsmesser. Messer out of the two, the long guard can protect you against close-up zombie bites, lol. And that's what I was saying earlier, Joe. Plus, Tempest, I know you're going to correct me when I'm wrong in the fully realistic ability that I'm wrong, but the Mohow or the murder stroke was one of the techniques I was mentioning before to deal with the zombies, especially if you were to perform it at the temple bone. You have a wakizashi. I do have a couple of wakizashis, Jerome. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. But Joe, as I was saying, the murder stroke to the temple bone, the thinnest bone in the skull, and you're basically giving the zombie a lobotomy. I don't have many wakizakis at the moment with me, because my other one's at my dad's house. But I have the Honshu tactical wakizaki with me right now, Jerome. Yeah. The only thing that I would want, Joe, is for this blade to be a little thicker, and I would take this into a zombie apocalypse. Because at the end of the day, while this is my favorite sword, and more than likely would be the actual sword I take into the zombie apocalypse, if I was being logical, I'd take this one. It's also lighter, but there is one big downside to carrying the Kriegsmesser. And it is actually in one of the very things that makes the Kriegsmesser a good sword for the application that I am mentioning. and that is the cross guard. Because as you are wearing the sword on your hip, at any point when you're running or walking, the quillon can jab into your flesh. And if you
Alright, so you bruised from falling off your bike.
Oh, I feel okay. I just almost feel horses.
Well, you should at least give it a try, because what if we never have a chance to go riding again? Maybe we have all the time.
it's completely within
Maybe we don't.
the context of what we're doing, Joe. It's what I'm asking: what sword would you personally carry in the zombie apocalypse? And if you were to, at any point when you're running from the zombies, if you were to fall and you land just right, and the quillons pierce into your body, these quillons are long enough to reach your vitals. Now that would take I would imagine that would take a very powerful impact to do, but on the off chance that it does happen, these quillons are more than sufficiently long enough to reach into your chest cavity and into your vitals. And I do believe these are actually also small enough to slip through your rib bones. Now, the Warrior O Katana, on the other hand, if I could find the blasted saya for it. There it is. Nobody can beat Eric. He's a sword god. Well, Tempest, I'm a sword devil, so it's going to be God versus devil. And this time, the devil will win. But yeah, with the katana, you don't have that problem of accidentally stabbing yourself if you fall over. Now, earlier, I also said that I would take mainly any of my cold steel blades, since they are the most durable and overbuilt swords I have. I would take the Viking sword. I make a policy of refusing to compete, nothing to be gained here. It's not really a competition for gain, it's more just like, we're here, might as well have a fun game with each other. At the end of the day, my challenges are just those. They are games that we can play with each other. But I would take the Viking sword as well. Just mess around, totally trying those triples. Oh, you naughty, naughty boy, you. Don't make me call the colonel again. Go back to the yeah, if y'all, Joe, I don't think you were here for the last live stream, but I called Kingfisher Kentucky Fried Chicken last time. It became a whole meme that night. But I would also take the Viking sword simply because while it doesn't have as nearly big quillons as the Kriegsmesser, working on my doubles, got a clean one and the camera missed it. Oh, that sucks, Gargoyle. I was like, Eric sent me a video of him. I know that feeling. Damn. Like, Eric sent me a video of him when he was trying to get that triple during the last live stream. He sent me a video of that, and after about 5 hours, it decided to finally process, and I got to see the unedited version. And then the edited version he put up online. The only thing he did was cut out the audio background noise. But while it doesn't have the same quillons, yeah, some best cuts and the camera battery died right then. Yeesh. But while the quillons are not as large, it does have the same sleek carrying profile of the Warrior O, and it has the advantage of being a one-handed sword, meaning that if I had to, I could have another weapon in my offhand. I mean, here's a little story rant for the moment. When I first got into swords, I didn't like the idea of one-handed swords. I thought I couldn't use them, that they would be unusable for me. Basically, I didn't know what to do with my other hand. I saw like some would have their hand back, some would have them behind their back, some would have them across the chest, but just having it stationary didn't appeal to me. Then I learned about two-sword style and started practicing that. I practiced two-sword before I even practiced one-sword, but I digress. In terms of melee weapon I would carry in the zombie apocalypse, definitely a sword. Now, I don't have one, but this will work as an analog. I'd also have some kind of blunt impact weapon that could double as like a walking stick. Something that's always at the ready, that's in my hand. This is just a wooden pole that I found in my garage. Originally, it had like a cardboard axe head that I made for LARPing. Katana handle is generally too fat near the tsuba for proper single-hand use, though many single-handed swords are actually heavier, just had more specific handles. And you are generally right, Tempest. The Warrior O Katana is a little too wide to use comfortably. However, that is not a problem with the Dragon King Winter Sun, at least in my hand. I can use this thing one-handed fairly easily. And then also use it two-handed if I had to. Gotta run, folks. Garbage pickup tomorrow, and I got a ton of stuff to do. Well, thank you for showing up, Joe. That was Kingfisher. I took it as a compliment. I thought I said Kingfisher. What, did it sound like something else? If it sounded like I said something wrong, I'm sorry, Kingfisher. Have a good night, everyone. You too, Joe. See you, Joe. All right. So Joe has left us, and we'll probably only be on for another half an hour anyways. It'll be 10 o'clock where I am. But yeah, Kingfisher, the Dragon King Winter Sun Katana, is perfectly usable, to me at least, one-handed. And that may be because of the blade size. It's not exactly a big sword. And because of the fact that it's not a big sword, it can be used much more easily one-handed. But to me, however, this is also one-handed use. I know it's going to sound like I've lost my damn mind. I mean, how are you expecting me to use a sword this thick one-handed? But I have fairly decent tip control on this. And it may just well be the fact that I've been swinging this thing for almost 2 years, almost every day, constantly. I mean, this is my favorite sword for a reason. I swing this thing constantly. So to me, heavy swords appeal to me. I'm not a fan of light swords. And I don't know why. I know light swords are supposed to be better overall, but heavy swords just appeal to me more. It feels right in my hand. And again, I could use this one-handed if I needed to. I'm just saying that a dedicated one-handed sword does give you the advantage of being able to use a weapon in your other hand. Be it an axe, be it a crossbow, whatever. I doubt you're going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger shooting a crossbow. Princess Bride, see. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Cloud Strife Buster Sword. My name is Cloud Sephiroth. You killed my father. Prepare to join the Matrix. I know, I just butchered the hell out of that famous line. I know the line. My name is Rigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. I was just combining the comments. Though, if I'm being honest, I think if I was going to choose any sword from Final Fantasy, it would actually be Sephiroth's Muramasa sword, just simply because I don't want to have to fucking swing around the Buster Sword. I ain't crazy. I mean, you look at Guts from Berserk. The Dragon Slayer, I'm willing to bet, is even heavier than the Buster Sword. No. You guys can keep that. You guys are built different. You can keep those. Okay? I'm going to take the giant katana. Just because I feel like I'd be able to actually lift that thing. And not instantly give myself a hernia from hell. Now, there is another category of weapons. You mean I can dodge bullets when you're ready? You won't have to because you're in a sword fight. They're both pretty unwieldy. You mean I can dodge bullets when you're ready? You won't have to because you're in a sword fight. I don't know if that's just not registering with me, Tempest, but I don't, not Tempest, Kingfisher, but I don't exactly know what you're saying. Oh, okay, now I get it. Like the Matrix dodging thing, I wouldn't have to because I'm already in a sword duel. Is that right? Thanks. But yeah, I think Sephiroth, like, I could just imagine, Sephiroth when he's a teenager was like, I could buy this Buster Sword. There's this giant fucking katana. The katana is more wieldy. I'm taking the sword.
Sorry, I'm not able to.
Stupid voice chat. I mean, voice search. But yeah. Yeah, stupid Joe, whatever. No, it's not a stupid joke. I just don't exactly understand its wording. There is no stupid jokes in the noble band of outlaws. There's only jokes we don't understand and need to be explained at times. Especially me. I ain't exactly smart. Morpheus. Oh, now I get it. Like when Morpheus was fighting on that bus and he was dodging bullets and I think even slicing bullets out of the air, but not like Deadpool when he was actually doing it right. Is that what you're talking about? Listen, I never finished the Matrix series. I watched the first one, but after that, I kind of lost interest. And it's nothing against Matrix. It's just I lose interest in things very quickly, unless they are things that I've grown up with and around, like Godzilla movies. My ass is always in the theater when a Godzilla movie come out. Right on. GG, Gucci. Vegas. My ass will always be in the theater when a new Godzilla movie come out, okay? My boy Big G, always king of the kaiju. Right? I grew up with watching the old Godzilla movies. And let me tell you, OG Godzilla is true Godzilla. It was a quote from Morpheus explaining the path of the one to Neo. You mean I can dodge bullets when you're ready? You won't have to because you're in a sword fight. Oh, okay. Well, right, because Neo's the chosen one and basically becomes God in the Matrix verse. Okay? Is it God or does he become like some sort of computer virus thing? Because the Matrix is like a giant robot, whatever. So is it a giant robot or a computer thing? I'm not entirely sure. If my bloody hair would stay back. The other thing that I would carry in the zombie apocalypse is some kind of melee weapon that could double as like a walking stick or a breaching tool or something like that. This had like a cardboard axe head on it at one point to kind of be like a LARPing thing. To kind of give me, it doesn't matter, he dies in the end. Oh, damn. Oh, Nero or Morpheus? But yeah. Like a breaching tool or something like that. Something that's a pretty much an all-around tool. I know this is not conclusive to carry around in a zombie apocalypse, but if I was to carry a weapon like this in the zombie apocalypse, it would have a hammerhead on one side and some kind of other tool on this side, like maybe a spike, like the cold steel warhammer, for example. Something I want to get my hands on, and that alone would be the perfect like melee weapon to fight zombies with. Especially because the way it's designed is like a tomahawk. If the haft on it breaks, all you need to do is find another piece of hard wood and carve it down to shape, stick the head back on, and you're ready to rock and roll. Nice axe, bro. Actually, this is a pole axe. And like you can see where it gets its name from. This is the cold steel pole axe in actuality. There are a lot more fancy, well-done pole axes, but this is more like a utilitarian version. This is basically like if you were to join a medieval army and you were a soldier that was trained in how to use a pole axe or something like that, they would basically say, here you go, this is standard military issue. Take it and go beat the hell out of the other guy. Now, I'm not saying that something like this wouldn't be useful. You do get the advantage that a polearm gives you, and that is being able to basically bash someone in the head from a few feet away, and then you can come around and bash them in the head with the axe, or split their skull with bash them in the head with the hammer, split their head with the axe blade. And you can even push the zombies back by using the front of the axe, like just push them over, making them lose their balance like so. And then if you have a companion with you and they have a like smaller hand hammer or something, they can come up and just bash the skull in, and you're able to fight the zombies more effectively because one of you is basically doing what polearm users historically did. He still had to fight some tough bastards. Armor doesn't stand a chance against that. No neat. Actually, Tempest, armor did and did not stand a chance against this. Good quality armor, maybe. Bad quality armor, no. Like, the armor would be able to withstand the axe blade because you couldn't chop into it like a breastplate. But the hammer end would be able to dent the breastplate, dent the helmet, crush the skull, crush the rib cage. So never say that armor didn't stand a chance against the weapon. It all depends on who's using the weapon, the quality of the armor, and the quality of the weapon. This is far better quality in terms of its steel than what they had historically. And you show us how to spin it over your head. Now, a lot of polearm weapons work the same way. Even the Japanese Joe would make a good training tool despite being shorter and not having a blade or hammer. Well, that's right. And I really can't show you how to spin it around in the space I am efficiently. But basically, the principle of it is, Noel, that you would spin the axe and using the momentum of the swing, continue keeping the axe in motion. You never want to stop because it takes far more strength to stop this thing than it does to get it going. It takes a lot less energy to keep something going when you're using its momentum than when you just straight out stop. Like, for example, if I just spin this, get this spinning in my fingers, it doesn't take as nearly as much energy than if I wanted to stop it and reverse its spin. Because I have to tense my fingers and basically stop its momentum entirely in order to change its direction. Thus, why this is easier to use once it's spinning, because you're using its momentum to keep it going, and you really only have to put power into it when you're going to deliver the attack. Good. So I can't show you how to spin it in the room that I'm in. When it gets warmer, I actually am planning on doing an outside live stream once it gets warmer, which I'll be able to do a lot more weapons demonstrations then. But yeah, it's basically just keeping this thing going, keeping it spinning, and using its momentum to deliver more powerful attacks. Thank you, Noel. Pretty neat. And that's actually the same principle as the Montante sword, or the Schweihander swords, or the great swords. I don't have a great sword in my collection as of yet. Yet. Remember the key word there. Yet, he says. But I could use the Viking sword as an example of that. When you're using a great sword, it's the same thing. You want to keep the momentum going, using its weight to keep it flowing, because the second you stop and try to change its direction, you're using up far more energy, and it's not as conducive to fighting. When I was a kid, I would meditate with a metal geometric image that I started spinning. Stopping it was always much harder, crazy difficult. And that's exactly what I'm saying, Tempest. Pole arms and great swords, in general, work on the theory of momentum. The more momentum they have, the less actual physical work is required to maintain that momentum. That is why when you pedal a bike and the bike wheels continue to spin like when you push the pedal hard once, that's why the bike wheel continues to spin, because you've stored the momentum, the kinetic energy from the gears into that wheel. It's the same principle here. The spinning of the weapon that you create by putting that kinetic energy and that momentum into the weapon and just using minimal amounts of strength to maintain that momentum is what allows you to constantly keep it in motion and conserve your energy more. He complimented you again. Thank you, Tempest. I know that was a compliment. I was also using his post to emphasize my point. Right? Like I've said, I remember telling all y'all in the last live stream I had Asperger's and not being well with social things. So having you guys here that are willing to take the time and explain these obscured references to me is actually very helpful. And I very much appreciate it. And like I said, I would use a great sword if I had one. Although I wouldn't be able to swing it at all in here. It's just too wide a space. I mean, too narrow of a space. But that's basically the whole principle behind the large weapons and why I would want a breaching tool in a zombie apocalypse. But before I continue my bitchings and rantings, is there anything that you, noble band of outlaws, want to hear my opinion on? Swords, pole arms, anything in general? Okay. Well, I just chug a Gatorade like a boss. Do you know any karate? I actually do not know any karate aside from the whole punching thing, which I only really learned this from Karate Kid. If I'm being honest, hand-to-hand combat just never interested me much in the sense that I have to get in close and personal with you in order to fight. I don't really like that because I do not have the coordination to fight like that. Would you prefer Western or Eastern pole arms? Honestly, Tempest, when it comes to pole arms, I kind of prefer European and Western pole arms. Except for one. I mean, if you've kept up with my channel, you'll realize I made two of these. A Dollar General one and this upgraded model of a Naginata. It's a very horribly made Naginata, but a Naginata nonetheless. But like I said, I would prefer Naginata versus poleaxe. Well, if I'm going to go Naginata versus poleaxe, I honestly have to go with the poleaxe just because it does have the advantage over the Naginata. Gonna go with the poleaxe. Right? And I'm in agreement with Tempest. The poleaxe, it just has more advantages over the Naginata does. Fangirl Kate. Hello there, Fangirl Kate. If I'm going to choose one of these pole arms, if I had to fight a horde of zombies, I would honestly choose the poleaxe. Yes, it's heavier and it's more tiring, but at the end of the day, it offers far more advantages than a Naginata does. A Naginata can only really be used to push back your enemies this way or to cut them. You can't really thrust with a Naginata too well. I made a Naginata mounting Munetoshi Yuki on a shovel handle. It was pretty cool. Huh. You'll have to make a video of that sometime, Tempest. Do you spin the poleaxe like an axe? Well, honestly, you spin the poleaxe pretty similar to the way you would spin a Naginata, which is almost in a figure 8 pattern. If you're not going to be spinning the poleaxe much, this particular poleaxe seems to work best when I have a hand near the head and a hand somewhere near the middle of the shaft. And then you want to throw the axe out like so to generate power and really fuck someone up. Of course, you could also switch over to the axe blade and just split their skull in half. But yeah, you want to spin it in a figure eight pattern. Now, not to saying that you want to keep doing that constantly because you will tire out. It's a lot easier to rest the poleaxe in this position, or even if you wanted Wrathguard. Like you could transfer some sword guards over to the poleaxe, like Wrathguard, or like if you wanted to forward guard, like maybe even Fool's Guard, because you could just straight up come straight up with the axe blade and eviscerate somebody. Would you grip the axe from the bottom to generate the power for range? Von Tag. Is that supposed to be German, Tempest? Von Tag or Von Tag? Would I grip the axe from the bottom, Noel? No, actually. For the simple fact that while this would generate... We'll have to sit down for this. This would generate a massive amount of power. It's also ungodly unwieldy. All that weight at the end. And even I'm struggling to hold it. My arms were literally shaking just holding it at the end. If you put the axe blade in the fan, would it slice the blades of the fan in half? Montag is German, means from the roof. No, it would just break the fan blades. I know I'm starting to think that's becoming a meme with me. Hitting the fan blades. But I have a very small room and a very big mouth that generates a lot of hot air, which makes my room very hot. All right? I'm a walking furnace. I assume, like, this would be a Von Tag. Right, Tempest? Yeah. There are even sword guards that you could transfer over, like Wrathguard. And then just pop up with your shoulder and continue through with the swing. You would even be stepping forward into the swing at some points. And there's also there's also Fool's Guard like this, where you could just lay the hammerhead on the ground and then come straight up with the axe blade and basically eviscerate someone upwards through the chest. Come on, Outlaw, you know you want to just tap the fan with the axe. I gotta try a Euro sword, so different, so much to learn. Oh, I'm behind in the comments. To the bottom. One tag is. Well, why are the comments showing up faster on here? Achievement get. Yes, I gotta try a Euro sword, so different, so much to learn. Yeah, Tempest, there's a whole, biologically and mechanically speaking, Kenjutsu and Hima, they are pretty much the same. It's just the way the longsword is built, there's a lot more fancy techniques you can use from the wrist with them. And no, I do not want to stick the axe in the fan blade. The fan blade and my box fan are the only ways I survive the summer here in Indiana. What little summer we get. And I don't want to spend the money to replace my fan. No, you're gosh, Tumblr. I'm not saying it wouldn't be real neat. I'm just saying I don't want to break my fan.
Sure. Yeah. I'm not promising anything.
And what's a gosh tumbler, Kingfisher?
You're a good friend, but
I'm just glad that I'm not glitching out this time.
Yeah, so far.
Ooh, Matthew Jensen just released a new video for members only of a Hanwei Q gen. Key gen? Some kind of gen.
I'm trying to keep it all
Which
in mind.
reminds me,
Something about Joe.
I do actually have a Chinese sword. It's been so long since I've actually
You know, maybe I'm wrong.
used this thing that I completely forgot I had it. This is a Quan Gen that I got off of Amazon for $150. I think it was like the third or fourth sword I ever bought.
talk to him about it. What do you think?
Yeah, you get all defensive. So I just sort of left.
No, I'm not tapping the fan blades
Yeah, trust
with the axe. Please drop it. All right.
you got something to say to the man you're gonna
I
marry.
may do stupid shit, but most of the time when I do stupid shit, it's not on purpose. Except when I'm making a video, then it's usually always on purpose. But here, Queer Jin is pronounced Chi Jun as far as I know. That sword nickname is Panda Express. Tap the fan with Panda Express. This is not. I've never actually ordered anything from Panda Express personally. I've been calling this the Flower Gen. I'd actually name this Pedal. I'd actually name this the. Well, it's not a Gen, it's a Dao, but the Pedal Dao or Pedal Knife, as Dao means knife in Chinese. It has a cherry blossom motif all over the sword blade. A distinguishing characteristic you will find on Chinese swords is that a lot of Daos do not actually have any kind of fitting here. You should pose like a samurai with Panda Express. You're pretty cute, but would be cuter if you tap the fan with the axe. Why do you all want me to tap the fan with the axe?
My back is just getting brighter, isn't it?
Fine.
Hey,
I posed.
Hey,
got your message. Everything all right?
guys. I want to talk to you about something.
Well, I want to talk to you about something too.
Right?
I'll have to tighten that with a wrench later. But you'll notice that this doll has a few distinguishing characteristics.
Well, he's struggling with financially, and I want to help him out, but I'm a little strapped for cash, so I was thinking about asking Lou for a loan.
That the katana does not. First of all,
Are you serious?
many Chinese Dao do not actually have a fitting. Most do, but some don't. A fitting here that would be the kabaki. It actually has a ricasso area. It has two fullers, a thin one and a wide one. The thin one goes about 3/4 of the blade, and the thin one goes to about, I want to say, 80% of the blade. And then it has this false edge on the back that is not sharpened. It took me almost an hour and two 80 grit belts on the workshop to put a decent edge on this thing.
Don't walk away from me. You need to hear this.
Because it was completely blunt when I got it. But now it's sharp and is actually capable of cutting things. The blade is still bent. It came bent, and I haven't been able to get it unbent.
You changed your life because you worked hard and because you're strong and decent. Joe.
You don't understand, Amy.
That's a cool Dow, very cool. Thank you. And I don't know what a new ceiling fan costs, no. I don't want to, I have no intention of finding out because I am not going to break it.
Yeah, it's fine.
All right? I ask you respectively, please stop asking me to put weapons in my ceiling fan. If it happens, and I'm not doing it on purpose. So please, no more asking me to stab my ceiling fan. I have a dowel, but need to remount it with a higher cut, very rat tail, no weight, directly in hand. Look, I'll go 50-50 with you on a new fan if you touch the fan with the sword. Rat tail tang is no good. I am not touching the fan with the sword. I'm just going to ignore all comments about fans from this point forward. It has a very solid shape for the cost. Fake race skin lacquering, very high quality fittings that haven't come loose at all over the course of me using it. This actually came from my Michonne replica katana because I actually do wear this gen on my back most of the time when I wear it. This wrapping I did myself. And then there is this, honestly, the fittings and overall, the fittings on the saya is, I honestly view as better quality than the sword itself. Especially its fittings. Yes, I believe the sword is sharp enough to cut many things. And honestly speaking, there is a dowel that LK Chen is selling now called the Crossbowman's Dowel that is basically an old katana looking blade. And yes, I do believe that a Ito wrap would look very nice on this sword. But as I was saying earlier, generally when I'm wearing this sword, I'm wearing it on my back because it is perfectly facilitate. It can perfectly facilitate wearing on my back and being drawn from my back because of its blade length.
Because they threw me juvie afterwards and it was all downhill for you. You went on the hard way. There was nothing but sunshine and rainbows for you, so how about you show me a little bit of gratitude? You just help me out, okay?
I'm not going to ignore the reasonable requests, like showing you how sharp the blade is. If I can find, this should work, material.
Toss me aside like I'm some stranger, okay?
As I said, I put a decent edge on this. I got so tired that as soon as I felt like, okay, this is sharp, I'm good, I stopped. The only problem is returning the sword to the sheath. It's such a tight fit that it requires both of my hands to draw this sword. So it's not something I can just pop out. I have to raise it up and then push and pull to get the sword out. No, he did pool noodles before. It was pretty awesome. Thank you, Kingfisher. I heard there was a man that is going to chop a ceiling fan in half on stream. Well, Tito, you heard wrong, because I am not doing that. Pretty sharp. Doesn't seem that sharp to me. Work sharp works. I just hate the secondary bevel look.
That's true.
The secondary bevel look doesn't really bother me, Tempest, as long as it's sharp. As long as I can cut something with it, then it could have a triple bevel for all I care. Personally speaking. The only sword I haven't considered taking the work sharp to is, again, the Scorn Katana.
Well, actually, there is something. Can I have those strawberries?
Yeah, but there was one bad. I was just gonna make jam with them.
So I want them.
Well, Noel, if that is actually a valid question. Throwing swords is actually a real technique from historical manuscripts, usually done in tournament settings. You would throw the sword like this, and then much like a spear.
Listen, Caleb, the reason I wanted you to come here is because I wanted to ask you something.
I swear I'm saying Kingfisher and not Kentucky Fried Chicken. I swear.
One guy for the job.
Talking about me, right?
Well, yeah, I'm talking about you. What do you say?
My dartboard.
Say thanks.
Oh, you mean the dartboard behind me.
I said yes.
This is a dartboard I got for Christmas. It's just pretty much a standard everyday dartboard.
When sugar is added to strawberries, it
Thank you,
drives
Tempest. The only sword
sugar molecules leave no room for bacteria to grow. These strawberries are decomposing, but by adding sugar and allowing the molecular reaction to occur, the fruit is preserved. Now, ladies and gentlemen,
Thank you, Tempest. Thank you, Tempest. Thank you, Tempest.
Wow.
Sorry, bro.
I think you nailed it.
But as we can see here, the only reason I haven't taken the... do you think if you threw the sword, it would stick in the dartboard or it would bounce up? Honestly speaking, if I threw this sword, it would most likely stick through the wall. As you can see here, the only reason I haven't taken the work sharp to this, which honestly speaking, it could use a couple of licks on the 6000 grit, is I don't want to damage this beautiful Hamon pattern. I just love it so much, and I don't want to ruin it. But yeah, if I was to throw any of these swords at that dartboard, they would more than likely stick. They would more than likely go through it. But the reason I wouldn't is that there are metal rings and staples all around this dartboard. And metal on metal chips steel. So, yeah. Me not do that. Tempest, you...
Better not do that.
Tempest, do you have any DH swords? What's DH? Differentially hardened. He's asking if you have any differentially hardened swords, Tempest, which, spine softer than edge. But yeah, this is the only differentially hardened sword I have. This is the only T10 sword I have. No, all mono steel. Oh, spring, man. But yeah, I think that if I took some painter's tape and taped off the Hamon, then I might be able to sharpen up through here, because I feel like just a couple of licks on the 6000 grit would just bring this edge to perfection. In the world. I'll get there someday. Yeah, Tempest, you usually do a lot of like medieval swords.
I'm sorry.
You're not really into the whole Japanese side of things as much as the rest of us, are you? Do you have fruit that you could show us how sharp it is?
I didn't turn my life around on my own.
I'll test all before I die.
I had you.
Them all. No, I don't have any fruit on me, and I cut all the noodles I had last cutting session, so I am completely out of cutting targets at the moment, Noel. I do pool noodles again, but I don't have any with me. No, I am completely out of all cutting materials at the moment. Well, I shouldn't. I have them, but I don't have them ready or prepped. I have a shit ton of empty bottles. It's just I emptied them, and then I got lazy, and then I didn't want to fill them, and it became a whole process. Differentially hardened blades do offer a, as I understand it, a more durable edge, but they also bend a lot easier. And I don't have to ask my mom for vegetables because we don't keep any vegetables in the freezer. All our vegetables are canned. In fact, I don't think I've eaten vegetables in 6 months. I live off of a pretty much meat, dairy, and bread diet. Now you're making me want one. Yes, Tempest. We will tempt you. Join us on the DH side of the swords. Though, Tempest, if you do want a differentially hardened sword that won't break your bank, you can go to trueswords.com, where I bought the Sokuchikara Scorn. It was on sale for $100 less than it normally is. This is about $300. Normally, I got it for like I got it for like, I think 200 something, or 199. So roughly around 200 something. But it is a T10 differentially hardened blade with a real hamon, and only needs a few licks on a honing belt to get that edge perfect. And I think you'll be very happy with this. I will, however, warn you that the saya is scuffed and marked very easily.
Previously on Heartland.
Let me see. I am a financial analyst, but I'm also a mom, 24/7, sleep-deprived, gilded mom.
Yep, very good to know, Tempest. Sokuchikara actually does a very good job with their swords. I was honestly very impressed with their quality. And if you notice, the diamonds are actually very hard to move. I actually have to white knuckle my finger to move them. No, I'm not going to doubt that you have martial arts training. I'm not going to doubt that you're a 10th Dan. But at the end of the day, just know that I am not above stabbing someone through the back and out the front. So, which one of us is the assassin here?
Not great. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with Caleb's barrel horse.
Since when is Caleb into barrel racing?
Not.
Damn, Tempest. What the hell are you trying to cut that's metal?
Done a lot of miles and a lot of wins.
Gargoyle Brace is just like, yep.
So far,
Oh, are you saying that I'm just so overly powered, Noel, that even Godzilla and the rest of the kaijus would bow before me? Because that's what I'm hearing. You can't troll somebody who's been bullied as much as I have.
Please, it would just really help me if I could see how we
All right.
All right. Where's Caleb, anyways? Why is he even open?
Hey, I don't think anyone here wants to see my fat, hairy ass take off a shirt. All right? Do I look like a Playboy model? Suedo katana. Didn't you make a video about that recently, Gargoyle? That Suedo katana? I think that's the one you used when you were doing that video of a disassembly, wasn't it?
Not bad. Okay, let one go. Pretty darn good for first time.
So, when do we get to go up to your cabin?
Ingrid hit sword rap Sukamaki. Oh, don't worry, Tempest.
I wish I didn't have to go. I just don't get it. We already live in the country and it's
If you've been, I've had my fair share of people trying to tick me off in the past.
sounds okay, I guess. You know, seeing the bear part.
It's just getting funny, really.
It's just
First of all, two things. One, you can't walk on walls. That is physically impossible. You can run up a wall and jump off, but you cannot walk. Second of all,
So how am I doing?
shadow walk, that only really works at night. And at night is when I'm on guard the most, and any little sound gets a response out of me and a slash first, ask questions later mentality.
I'm ready. You're in school, so I'm gonna be straight A's.
Well, I'm actually enjoying this, Tempest. I don't get trolled. But yeah,
Fishing cabin?
what was I saying?
Told me that.
Now, I will tell you this, Tempest. I don't know what these fittings are made of because I don't really remember what it said.
I've always wanted to learn how to fly fish.
But I do believe they are some kind of steel.
Well, you check your schedule. I'll check
Thank you, Kingfisher. Well, Noel, if you take a look at my past videos, that question answers itself. But back to the actual important part, I will say that there is a bit of a lip here where the Ito meets the Kasha. The Fuchsia is tight. It has very nice brass work on the Habaki. And the Seppers, they're pretty much generic, but they do have a nice polish.
Hey, buddy, what's up? Yeah, I know we're heading up to Banff. Just me, Lou, and the kids. 3 days and 2 nights. That'd be great.
Though it also does have real Samegawa race skin. I'm not entirely sure what the Manuki are supposed to be. Some sort of temple thing about scorn and revenge. All in all, it's a really nice blade that I've had my eye on for a while. And I've nicknamed this sword Scorpion for obvious reasons. What is this? Dragon Ball Z? Did I just turn Super Saiyan? Oh, wait. It didn't work. But yeah, Tempest, if you want a good sword that won't break your bank, that's differentially hardened, I can recommend to you the Sokochikara Scorn Katana. No, I hate them. Tempest is like, not Tempest. Kingfisher, if you hate hamburgers, you and me are going to have a long talk about the history of ground beef and why it is God's most perfect form of beef. Where did you get the burger? Was it like a Whopper or something like that? So, Noel has given me an idea for one topic. And that topic is the Ninjato, a completely unhistorical sword, but also somewhat historical in a sense. Actually, no, it's not. Now, the Ninjato means ninja's sword. Ninja and then to meaning sword or katana. Straight blade, square guard. But this type of sword did not actually exist in the time period that ninjas were prevalent. What ninjas would have used
You up by your ear.
So what was all that about?
no, the chi ball was real. I was pissed. Like, what the? What ninjas would have actually used is a sword similar to the scorn katana, a short katana with a wide tsuba. Now, the square tsuba, like on the Ninjato here, is actually historical. The ninja would put these at the base of the walls of a mansion and scale over them and pull the sword up with the scale. That is actually a real historical technique from the Banzai Jukai. Gaijin Gumbo, a very good YouTuber on the subject, does a lot better of explaining this than I do.
Okay. I'll buy it. What's the sweetener?
They want you to get to talk to the Petroleum Wines Club.
What?
I'm pretty sure it's going to be.
But in actuality, what the ninjas would have used is actually short katana. Almost Kodachi to Wakazaki length. Because it's far easier, and even Tanto, it's far easier to conceal those kinds of weapons than it was a full-size katana.
It would be my first public speaking engagement.
Okay, so we're settled then, right?
How are we going to switch our team?
Come on, boy. Come on.
And Gargoyle, you were right. Wakazaki blades were pretty much available to every social class that could afford it. But the ninja would also use the more qualified people to talk about this than I am. But they would also use shorter katana with the square tsuba, and again scale the buildings as well.
How do you hop on him and just walk around, let him chill?
Damn it.
Oh, no, stop by. See how you're doing.
Now,
Good, I'm busy.
there was, however, one sword in history that the Ninjato could claim its roots from. And that sword is actually what is known as a chokuto, or a straight sword. Most of these chokuto came over from China before the Kamakura period. And they were straight, double-edged swords, or in some cases, very rarely, as far as my knowledge goes, straight single-edged swords. But the Ninjato as a sword itself is not historically accurate. This would be more historically classified as a chokoto or a straight sword.
Do you think maybe while you're gone?
And the chokoto was used before Japan figured out how to do differentially hardened blades near the end of the Kamakura period and switched over to the katana because as samurai were returning from war, they found that the ones using the traditional kokoto would have their swords severely damaged and in many cases broken in half from battle, when the ones with katana had far less damage and would return either bent or nearly broken.
I know it sounds a little old-fashioned, but I mean, look at their activities: mindfulness, Pilates, wine tasting,
Rock climbing, yoga.
and talking babies, which is where I come in.
So you're really going.
You don't have to fly to Fort McMurray for Sunday morning.
And you're right, Kingfisher. A lot of,
Breakfast with the fishing cabin.
and no, one thing here. If you're going to call me Alibaba, then at least do it when I'm holding a scimitar or an Indian sword, because Alibaba and Japanese, they are not the same language.
Now you're really sounding like
But yeah, Kingfisher, you're right. They were cut down. A lot of swords were cut down to katana, wakazaki, even tanto length, depending on what happened to them. Absolutely, Kingfisher. Cool. As I said, Alibaba is Indian. We're doing Japanese. Scimitar or bust. That's the thing. I want a scimitar, but none of the ones I've seen catch my eye. Mainly because what I want is a two-handed scimitar with a somewhat straighter blade than the traditional model. Somewhere in the middle of a hybrid of a scimitar and a katana. But in any case, that's the whole evolutionary track that the Japanese sword went from this to this was Chinese swords, because the Japanese people originated from China. They were Chinese settlers that eventually evolved into the Japanese culture. They brought the swords with them from the mainland. And the story of the katana goes that I don't remember his name, but one famous swordsmith, kokoto are an ancient invention adopted from the Chinese. It only became a samurai sword when the curve was applied. And I'm getting to that, Kingfisher. But the chokoto that I'm speaking of were based off of Chinese swords at the time. So all Japanese culture stems from the Chinese culture because it is technically the mother of the Japanese culture. And they were using very reminiscent swords of Chinese culture at the time. But as I said, one famous swordsmith whose name escapes me at the moment, Gage Pope. Outlaw! Hey, Gage! Everyone say hi to my old friend Gage.
Excuse me.
Gage Pope, he showed up on my live streams chat. Hey, Gage, what's up? We were just discussing the history of Japanese swords.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, so
I'd like to go to bed.
Just go to bed then. The kokoto was very reminiscent of the Chinese swords. And one famous swordsmith one day had a dream. The god of the forge appeared to him in this dream and told him to pray for so many days and so many nights. And when his praying was done, he would give him the epiphany that would cause him to create the Japanese katana that we know today. And in actuality, the original sword that he created wasn't even a katana. And I know this isn't the right fitting, but this is the closest thing I have to a tachi. He created the tachi, which through the Kamakura period into the Sengoku period, the Sengoku era is when we first see the uchi katana that we are accustomed to today. And the Edo period really was the flourishing point for the katana that we all know and love today. So it went from straight sword to tachi to katana.
He just has a mind of his own. He doesn't want to be telling what to do.
Okay, so what's your next move?
Well, I need you to look after Katie.
You called me all the way out here to babysit.
Come on, Ty, just look at it as practice, you know? Parenting 101. I had to work the lunch time.
I'm going to let that slide. Only because I'm the bigger man and... But in any case, that's how the katana came into being. And oops, what's this? My hand slipped, everyone. It went from the straight sword. What do we think? It went from the straight sword to the katachi to the uchi katana.
You all know what I'm talking about, right? Crazy schedules, ridiculous hours and deadlines, all that stress, fatigue, doesn't exactly secure for
But
romance, does
in
it?
any case,
All right, Hotshot, you ready to have some fun?
I digress. Now, I do not remember the actual name of the Japanese swordsmith. You can look that up on Google. That is actually the first project I'm going to work on, Gage. I've been working on getting a forge, and I've been saying I'm going to get a forge, but life keeps getting in my way, and I haven't been able, and I haven't just strictly said, this is when I'm doing it. I'm going to try to do it before 2024, but I'm saving up for something else at the moment.
It's like you're personally responsible for the destruction of life on Earth. You know it. I mean, it's only
But yeah.
denial of a couple toxic emissions and global warming things. It's so
Bedtime. Stop yelling.
I'm not yelling. But
Get off
okay.
there.
First of all, my great-grandma. Second of all, she already knows I collect swords and dream of marrying anime girls, so she's not losing any sleep over that. So, you're not really affecting me.
your oil industry is like a marriage. First you admit there's a problem, right?
Well, what happens, Kingfisher, is when you want a straight sword with a differentially hardened blade,
Something's wrong with that picture.
Gage, you have a forge and you're not sharing? I'm going to say, it's home. But in any case, Kingfisher, when you want a straight sword with a Hamon on it, what you'll do is when the sword is straight and it's quenched, the clay on the back cools the spine faster than the exposed edge, thus causing the blade to bend upwards. What you want to do when you want a straight differentially hardened blade is actually forge the blade down, and that way when it quenches straighter. That's why when a swordsmith designs his blade and he wants a sword with less sori or curvature, he'll actually forge the blade downwards so that when it's quenched, the cooling effect that comes from the clay will actually force the blade to go back up into a straight alignment. I think he actually is, which is the sad part. But yeah. And this is the Hellfire Damascus Ninjato from True Swords as well. If any of you want to pick one up. This was like $80 when I bought it on sale. But yeah. Tempest, if you were listening. Basically, to get a straight differentially hardened blade, you forge the blade down, and as it cools, the blade will curl back up, and it will be straight. if you want to get the standard curve, you just leave the blade straight and then quench it. And as it quenches, it will curve upwards. That's how you lower or raise the sori of a katana. Mono-hardened steel blades actually have to have their sori forged into the blade because there's nothing to force the material to bend upwards.
You guys even doing out here? You know, fishing.
Thank you for still tuning in, Tempest.
And I can't believe I'm stuck out here.
Gage, I'm actually surprised you know what a hamon is. You never once talked to me about swords back in high school. Of course, I never used to shut up about swords, so you probably remember me ranting and raving. But yes, the hamon is the pattern that differentiates the hardened edge from the softer spine. But yeah, that's the thing with differentially hardened straight blades. You have to forge them down to get them to go back straight. Thank you, Gargoyle. But yeah, so there's that. So I do honestly have to. I'm getting to it. Thank you, Tempest. Though, honestly, we have been together for 2 hours and 11 minutes, and my grandma actually cannot sleep with how loud my voice is. So, again, I thank all of y'all for tuning in and leaving your comments. I hope you all had a great time, and I'm afraid I have to end it here. So until next time, my noble band of outlaws, Outlaw Samurai tells all y'all, be crazy rednecks, be safe using your weapons, and again, thank you for tuning in to the live stream.
Are you playing Blockham?
No, but I'm about to kill someone.
What?
Never mind. I can't let it get to me. But in any case, everyone, I'll give you a few moments to say your goodbyes.
Goodbye.
Thank you, Kingfisher. Good night. And Mema, Outlaw Granny, she says good night to all of you as well. Later, everyone. Bye, Gargoyle. Thank you all for tuning in again. I'm out. Peace.